for my accord, and in my court I sit all day, giving agreeable girls away. With one for him, and one for he, and one for you, and one for ye, and one for thou, and one for thee, but never, oh never, one for me. Which is exasperating for a highly susceptible Chancellor.
Which is exasperating for a highly susceptible Chancellor.
Now, sir, what excuse have you to offer by having dared to disobey the orders of a court of chancery?
My lord, I know no courts of chancery. I go by nature's acts of parliament. The bees, the breeze, the seas, the rooks, the brooks, the vales, the gales, the fountains, and the mountains cry, "You love this maiden, take her, we command you." 'Tis writ in heaven by the bright barbed dart that leaps forth into lurid light from each grim thundercloud. The very rain pours forth her sad and sodden sympathy. When chorus nature bids me take my love, shall I reply, nay, but a certain Lord Chancellor forbids it? Sir, you are England's Lord Chancellor, but are you Chancellor of birds and trees, King of the winds, and Prince of thunderclouds?
No, it's a nice point. I don't think I ever met it before. But my difficulty is, there's no evidence before the court that chorus nature has interested herself in the matter.
No evidence? You have my word for it. I tell you that she bade me take my love.
But my good sir, you mustn't tell us what she told you. It isn't evidence. Now, an affidavit from a thunderstorm, or a few words and oaths from a heavy shower, would meet with all the attention they deserve.
And have you the heart to apply the prosaic rules of evidence to a case that bubbles over with poetical emotion?
Distinctly. I've always kept my duties strictly before my eyes, and it is to that fact that I owe my advancement to this present distinguished position. When I went to the bar as a very young man, said I to myself, said I, I'll work on a new and original plan, said I to myself, said I. I'll never assume that a rogue or a thief is a gentleman worthy implicit belief, because his attorney has sent me a brief, said I to myself, said I. Ere I go into court, I will read my brief through, said I to myself, said I. And I'll never take work I'm unable to do, said I to myself, said I. My learned profession I'll never disgrace by taking a fee with a grin on my face, but I haven't been there to attend to the case, said I to myself, said I. When I go into court, I will read my brief through, said I to myself, said I. And I'll never take work I'm unable to do, said I to myself, said I. Or assume that the witnesses summoned in force in Exchequer, Queen's Bench, Common Pleas and Defaults have perjured themselves as a matter of course, said I to myself, said I. In other professions in which men engage, said I to myself, said I. In the army, the navy, the church, and the stage, said I to myself, said I. Professional license, if carried too far, your chance of promotion will certainly mar, and I fancy the rule might apply to the bar, said I to myself, said I.
Lady Hale, in 1999 you were only the second woman to be appointed to the Court of Appeal. Then in 2004 you were the first woman to be appointed a Lord of Appeal in Ordinary and became a life peer. the Supreme Court replaced the Appellate Committee of the House of Lords in 2009, and you then became Deputy President, I believe, in 2013. But then in 2017, you were the President. That was up till your retirement last year. So then you were the most senior judge in the land. And you were, of course, the first woman to hold these roles. Now, amongst the wider public, you are doubtless most remembered for your judgment declaring Boris Johnson's suspension of Parliament unlawful, and for your fashion in brooches, you can see there and there. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about that case.
Well, of course, you haven't got all night. and it was a very serious and complicated case, but it basically boiled down to, was it lawful for the Prime Minister to advise Her Majesty to suspend the operation of Parliament for 5 weeks out of the 8 weeks that were remaining before the United Kingdom would automatically leave the European Union unless something was done to extend it. And that was a very drastic thing to do, to mean that the government would not be able to ask Parliament to pass any legislation. It wouldn't be subject to the control of Parliament. And our two principles in the UK Constitution are the sovereignty of Parliament and the accountability of government to Parliament. The government doesn't have unlimited powers. It's everything that the government does has to be within the powers that the law allows. And so we had to ask ourselves, was that within the powers that the law allows? And in fact, the prorogation of Parliament normally lasts for a few days, just in the run-up to the Queen's speech. And we were presented with evidence that the Queen's speech was going to be on October the 14th. Exit day was the 31st of October. And so one would expect that the prorogation might be, say, on October the 9th or 10th. But it was going to be a whole month earlier. We were presented with absolutely no reason for those 4 extra weeks when Parliament would be unable to operate. And so we said that was outside the possible bounds of any power that the government could have to do that.
And please, could you tell us how you came to have this wonderful collection of brooches?
Yes, but it is a shame that when I went into court to announce the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court that what had been done was unlawful, I was wearing the same dress that I'm wearing in the picture on the front of the book, but I was also wearing a very sparkly spider. And because of the camera angle, it took a lot of prominence in the press coverage and the media coverage of the whole thing. There was a huge amount of excitement in the UK about this whole thing. And because it was a spider, everybody started speculating about why had I worn a spider. I didn't know that The Who had a song which was called Boris the Spider. I subsequently learnt that Boris the Spider came to a sticky end. Had I known that, I wouldn't have worn a spider. But the reason I wore a spider is that I've got a large collection of brooches and they tend to migrate. They're all creatures, so they've got minds of their own, and they tend to migrate to a particular garment where they feel comfortable, and that's where they stay. So spiders live on that dress, and that's why I was wearing a spider.
Thank you very much. We now come to the climax of the first half of tonight's concert, and we're staying with Iolanthe, and this is the part of the Act 1 finale when Strephon, we've met him before, here he is again, who turns out to be half a fairy, he summons his fairy aunts
Come, boy.
and their queen to assist him in his battles with the Lord Chancellor. Lord Chancellor backhand, yeah. And the other peers, who are also in love with Phyllis. Now Phyllis, at this stage of the proceedings, thinks that Strephon has been playing away, and that's because she's seen him embracing his apparently very young fairy mother, Iolanthe. Well, you can see already she's none too happy. We're going to join the action at the point when the Lord Chancellor encounters the Fairy Queen, and you'll soon see who has the upper hand.
Go away, madam, I should say, madam, you display, madam, shocking taste. It is rude, madam, to intrude, madam, with your brood, madam, brazen faced. You can hear, madam, interfere, madam, with a peer, madam, I want. You're aware, madam, what you dare, madam, so take care, madam, and be gone.
You must say, madam, I should say, madam, they display, madam, shocking taste. It is rude, madam, to allude, madam, to your brood, madam, brazen face. We don't fear, madam, any peer, madam, though my dear, madam, this is one. They will stare, madam, when aware, madam, when they dare, madam, what they've done.
Bearded by these puny mortals, I shall launch from fairy portals all the most terrific thunders in my armory of wonders.
Shall they launch terrific wonders? I would then repent their
Go away, madam, I should say, madam, you display, madam, shocking taste. It is rude, madam, to allude, madam, to your brood, madam, brazen face. We appear, madam, interfere, madam, come appear, madam, I have won. You're aware, madam, what you bear, madam, so take care, madam, what you bear, madam, and be gone. You're aware what you dare, so take care and be gone. You're aware, madam, what you dare, so take care, madam, and be gone. Madam, you're aware, madam, what you dare, madam, so take care, madam, and be gone.
Oh, Chancellor unwary, it's highly necessary your tongue to teach, respectful speech, your attitude to vary, your budget are so airy, your manner arbitrary, are out of place when face to face with an influential fairy.
We never knew we were talking to an influential fairy.
A plague on this vagary. I'm in a nice one dairy of hasty tone, with dames unknown. I ought to be more chary. It seems that she's a fairy from Anderson's library, and I took her for the proprietor of a ladies' seminary.
We took her for the proprietor of a ladies' seminary.
When next your houses do assemble, you'll tremble.
Our wrath when gentlemen offend us is tremendous. They meet who underrate our calling, doom appalling.
Take down our sentence as we speak it, and he shall wreak it.
Oh, spare us!
Henceforth Strephon cast away, crooks and pipes and lemons so gay, flocks and herds of bleat and mow. Into Parliament you shall go.
Into Parliament he shall go, backed by their supreme authority. He'll command a large majority. Into Parliament, Parliament, he shall go. Into Parliament he shall go. Into Parliament into Parliament he shall go.
Every bill and every measure that will gratify his pleasure, though your fury it arouses, shall be passed by both your houses.
No!
You shall sit, if he sees reason, through coronavirus season.
No!
We know the government's been roguing. Of Parliament there's no proroguing.
No!
His powers extend to all quarters. No French shall fish in Jersey waters. He will act instead of wait and end the hospital debate. Senators go, constables remain, so that whatever you may proclaim, the law will always stay the same.
No! You'll step with us, if I no doubt he do, but as the figure out he cannot say what evils may result in consequence. The lawyer's enemies will pursue all kinds of harm. The people who oppose our views will only choose to offer us offence.
March us into grief and shame. It's time for Baroness Hale must pay. If fate is here in any shape, a very painful wrench.
Your powers we dauntlessly will do, and a dire revenge will fall on you if you besiege the high prestige.
The word prestige is French. The word prestige is French.
Your powers we dauntlessly will do, a dire revenge will fall on you. And step with us, if I no doubt it do, but there's a thing about we cannot say what evils may result in consequence. On lordly style you shall not quench with base canine.
That word is French.
Distinction as before a herd of vulgar plebs.
A Latin word.
Would fill with joy and madness of the hoi polloi.
A Greek remark.
One Latin word, one Greek remark, and one that's French.
Your lorries are will quickly quench with base canine.
That word is French.
Distinction ends before a herd of vulgar plebs.
A Latin word,
Would fill with joy and madness of the hoi polloi.
a Greek remark.
A Latin word, a Greek remark, and one that's French.
Your strength is, if I no doubt we do, but as the figure out we